name's Zelda, and I have 3 adopted children. I got married a bit later in life. I got married about 36, hadn't ever considered having children before that. And it was sort of a process of thinking what age I was, but also my husband, thinking about, having our own children. And for us, that didn't work out. We went through things like IVF a number of times, and just tried naturally, etc. as well. And it just didn't work out for us. And it had always been in the back of my mind about adopting anyway. I've never really thought that, I've always thought it was an option for us, or for Mayers definitely. My husband's mum was adopted as well, so we had a little bit of history because of her background, and it was something that we were very open to. We could have gone down different routes. We could have gone down egg donation, surrogacy, all that kind of thing, but for both of us, we felt adoption was absolutely the right thing for us. And so we were given, I think, you're given about a year where you have to, for want of better words, get over going through IVF and all that kind of thing. So we moved from where we were to another area of the country. In that time, I sort of approached what are now Adopt Southwest about finding out a little bit more about the adoption process. Were we able to be part of that process and adopt? And so it started very, very slowly at first, because we had to obviously have that year to recover, or whatever they like to call it. And then so we went along to it's a pre-meeting really, where you go along and there are social workers there from every aspect of the child social work team. And it's just a chance for them to explain a little bit more about adoption. You ask questions as well about that, and really then it goes on from there. They also, what they do, which I think was really good, was they invite adopters along to talk about their experiences at that pre-meeting. So it's an opportunity for yourself, or how many, if it's a couple, to actually ask questions to an adopter as well as the social work team. So that's how we started it, with this pre-meeting. From that pre-meeting, we both decided that we were interested in adopting a child or children. And so then you sort of start a process which is called the stage 1 process, where you go along, or we went along for a few weekends, and what you do is you learn more about how you need to parent an adopted child that might have been through some trauma, because realistically that's why these children are in care in the first place. So you're given some information about that. Also to look into how that child might be feeling in life. So you have to think about, they've been moved from here and there, and what does that mean to that child if they came to live with you? Which is really important, that you can understand and empathise why, for instance, a child might be very quiet when they come to you, or why they might be over excitable. There's so many different reasons. So there was that, and we just had a chance to talk to other people that were potentially wanted to adopt as well. So it was just a very informal but very interesting set of sessions that you go to. We saw videos of children that had been adopted, birth parents, how they felt. There was lots of information from every aspect of an adoptive life, as it were. So that was stage 1. Lots of people will read so many books about everything. You just read and read and read. And all I would say is, I bought the books but didn't read an awful lot of them. The course really did help, though, that part of it. They talk about case parenting, which is how you may wish to parent a child that's had traumatic issues. Playfulness, acceptance, curiosity, and I've forgotten the last one, empathy. That was it. I haven't forgotten the empathy. So they talk about how you might have to parent slightly differently than you would if you had a biological child. So it's really informative. They ask lots and lots of questions. The social workers aren't there to catch you out. They're there to help you and make sure that you're making the right decision, really. You get to know them very, very well, because it's over a period of time. They visit, I can't remember how many times, whether it was weekly or twice weekly. And they go through your medical background, your your family life when you were growing up. They talk about your marriage or your relationship or your lack of relationship if you're single, you know, what's your support network, that kind of thing. And they really get to the nitty gritty of your personality and character, really. So that hopefully they will be looking for the right match with you. So as I say, they are very friendly, kind people that are just there to make sure that you are making the right decision, really, for yourselves. So for instance, the rose tinted glasses when you want a baby or children is the thing. Yes, I'll have 3 all in one go. The reality of that is, have you actually thought what that really does mean day to day? So the social workers will sort of ascertain, you know, what kind of child or children you'd be looking for, whether you would accept children with special needs or, you know, extra special needs. So there's lots they go into with you just to make sure that you are 100%, you know, ready to be matched with a child or children. We adopted 2 children at the same time. One was 2.5 and one was baby when we got them. He was 9 months. We didn't actually get contact with the birth parents. That didn't happen on the first occasion or the second occasion. I realise it does, but it just didn't come about for us. We do the letterbox yearly letterbox service, so we are in contact, but we never offered that originally, and it didn't happen this time around because of various things like coronavirus and that. What I think is very important as an adopter is to look at how your child is, and seek to see if they're happy or sad. Why is that? What's the behaviour behind that? And give them lots of warmth, lots of cuddles, lots of time with them. You know, nothing like time out if the behaviour's bad, but sort of seek to be near them rather than pushing them away. That sort of thing. It's very different than like the naughty step and things like that. It's just about giving them what they've probably never had, which is the love and the security, really. And you need to build on that day by day, and that does happen. Family life becomes family life, and they're your children. The adoption support for us, we adopted originally in 2013, and then recently adopted another child, sibling, baby, in 2019, it was in the end. The adoption support has been brilliant, through from the social worker who we originally saw, and then the social worker we had for this said sibling that came along. So that's the core. The main social worker is the person who supports you through it all. And we've always, you know, a positive experience from that point of view. Adoption support team as well. Once you have adopted, there are a team where you can call upon them if you've got any issues, any questions, anything. They will visit. They've come round previously, not so much this time round, and they're there just to hear what you know, if you've got any questions, really. The other thing which I highly recommend is the what's called the therapeutic parenting course. That is brilliant. That's with a leading child psychologist who just again gives you more parenting advice, really, on how to parent an adopted child. And that was, I think it was about an 18-week course, which is not paid by yourselves. That's paid by the local authority, presumably. There's support if you need any extra support in terms of the online stuff. Obviously, your Facebook page and the Dot Southwest, there's information on there. But generally, I would say every parent, I just wish every parent could have this parenting support that an adoptive parent does get. Yeah, how the coronavirus has impacted on our personal experience of adoption. We adopted a baby, and he's with us now. The only thing it did was stop the final adoption order. That slowed that down a little bit, but that didn't matter. He was with us. He was happy. He was safe. he was loved, he was with his siblings. So in terms of that bit, it doesn't matter. What I would say is all the way through, the adoption support team still came to visit him to make sure he was okay, even if they had to stand outside in the garden or on the driveway. There's always that support there. Our social worker also was on Zoom talking to us to make sure we were okay all the time. So the process doesn't slow down at the moment. Things can still be done. Social work visits still take place if you're interested in becoming an adopter. All these things can still be done, whether it be virtual or face to face in the garden or something. So all I would say is that the social work teams work really hard through COVID to ensure that our child was safe still, but also that we were okay. So I just wanted to point that out as well, that things don't slow down. And I have to go now because the little one's crying for me.